Herzlich willkommen zu diesem Talk. In dieser Episode habe ich mich mit Matt Laur getroffen. Matt Laur ist ein Import-Wide Receiver, der aktuell für die Tollense Sharks in der Oberliga Ost spielt. Letztes Jahr hat er für die Gießen Golden Dragons GFL 2 gespielt und war einer der Top 10 Wide Receiver in der Gesamt-GFL 2. Wir reden darüber, wie er zum Footballspieler wurde, dass er fast mal zu den Marines gegangen wäre und wie er zum Import-Wide Receiver wurde und überhaupt, wie das Leben als Import so ist. Wir reden über die Bezahlung der Imports, die Wohnsituation der Imports, worauf es ankommt, von der Spielerperspektive, wenn man sich für ein Team entscheidet. Und anschließend reden wir sehr viel über Wide Receiver-spezifische Sachen. Wir reden über Mechanics, wir reden über seine Videoanalyse, wir reden über Trainingsperiodisierung und anschließend noch ein bisschen über College Football allgemein und die amerikanische politische Situation. Es ist seit langem mal wieder der erste Talk auf Englisch. Er geht ungefähr 1,5 Stunden und ich wünsche euch viel Spaß. Cool, all the technical problems are solved, and here he is, Matt Laur, ladies and gentlemen. How you doing, Matt?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. I've always wanted to talk to you because, like I told the guys before in the intro that I met you in Gießen and that I just never seemed to have the time to hang out with all the cool people after the game. Because after I got through like hanging out with all the other drunkards, you guys had already gone. So So yeah, no, I'm glad we finally made it happen. This is your second year in Germany, right?
Yeah. I graduated college from the University of Minnesota Morris in December of 21, signed with Gießen late March of 22, and then signed it with Tollense Sharks this season.
Yeah. Now, for the people who are not like a fit or proficient in German geography, Gießen is pretty much smack in the middle, and Tollense is in the far east and then a little bit north. It's like I think 100 kilometers north of Berlin.
Yeah. It's about 2 hour drive north of Berlin.
Yeah.
And yeah, I always say, Gießen was about South Central. I always tell people north of Frankfurt. So
Yeah. Cool. So how do you like it up there?
I like it. It's nice. It's a little bit, I'm from Minnesota, so I like the cold. You know, I was raised in it, so it's a little bit cooler up here than it was down in Gießen last year. And then we're kind of close to the Baltic, so you get those winds, and that helps keeps it cool.
Yeah. What's it like for an American being in the Northeast? Because I know like that region of Germany is, let's just say, a little suspicious around foreigners.
Yeah, I mean, everyone's been nice so far. Football brings people together, so like the team is close, just like it was in Gießen, and my teammates, coaches, everyone's really nice to me. I probably get about the same amount of people that speak fluent English in the community, so I work on my German a little bit, but it's not the best.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, I definitely, there's no issues at all. I don't have anybody like, giving me weird looks or anything. If anything, it's just I dress like an American. So I think sometimes people look at me on the streets and think, maybe he's not German, but
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I'm glad you haven't noticed, but people from around those latitudes are known to kind of regret that they lost the war, if you know what I'm saying. So yeah, I mean, you got to be like, just watch your six every now and then.
yeah.
Yeah, but I'm glad you like it.
Yeah.
Um, what's it like? I mean, being an import player in Germany, is it like you expected it? Because you just told me before we started recording that you were in the XFL or in the XFL no, you didn't go to the XFL combine, but you were already like on a roster or something.
I was in the draft pool, so I
Oh,
was I was eligible to be selected by a team. Unfortunately, I wasn't. But yeah, I mean, being over in Germany, growing up, I have an older sister who's 10 years older than me, and she played basketball in Australia, Puerto Rico, and Luxembourg.
hmm.
So I kind of got to watch her do it, and hear her stories. So when I came over, I kind of had, something to be, looking forward to, be prepared for that a little bit. But it's definitely it's really nice. The teams take good care of me. People are really friendly. Teammates, hang out. They make sure that I'm not just stuck in my room. So it's really nice. I get to travel. I get to explore. It's been a really good time.
Oh, that's cool. Have you ever been to Berlin?
I have, yeah. When I was in Gießen, actually, I traveled up to Berlin for a couple days, and then now that I'm out here, I actually went down. I was at a Berlin Thunder practice because one of our former quarterbacks, Paul, is the backup quarterback for them now. So he brought me to their practice for a day. And then I'm planning to go down there during our summer break.
Awesome. And how'd you like it?
I love it. It's a really big city. I'm from, Minneapolis originally, so like the Twin Cities in Minnesota, and it's nice to be in a big city sometimes.
Yeah. And did you notice like a lot of people speak English because there are a lot of exchange students there. A lot of expats run around there. I lived in Berlin for 3 years and it really changed because I was there from 2004 to 2007 and like it was just a normal big German town.
Mhm.
But visiting like after 2020, it's like I hear so much English, so much Spanish, and it's like it's being in San Francisco. I mean, I could really compare the two, I think.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I noticed that last year for sure when I was visiting and doing like my traveling, that a lot of like the big cities, that there's a lot more English than like the smaller towns in Germany for sure. So, like Frankfurt, Dusseldorf, Hamburg, Berlin, of course, there's a lot of English. I can go into like a convenience store and, like they'll be able to speak fluent English. So
Mm.
it's definitely, it makes it easier on me because, my German's not the best yet. So it definitely helps.
But I think it's cool that you're trying. A lot of people or a lot of import players just come over here, hang out, play football, go to clubs, get laid, whatever, and don't really care too much about the culture or the language.
Mhm. Yeah, it was just a thing that my sister kind of, taught me was, while I'm over here, education doesn't stop just because school did. If I can learn something about culture, take that back with me, live my life a little different, like the whole European, workers home, separation, like that's a big thing that I picked up. Like when I'm not at work, I'm not working. That's just in America, people are 24/7. And it's a nice change of pace, to have that family time, have that alone time, focus on yourself. So yeah, it's nice. I mean, German's a tough language to pick up.
I
Um,
imagine.
but I took a semester of it my freshman year of high school. So I knew like the bare minimum coming over my manners, the alphabet, stuff like that. So I did have, somewhere to start from.
That's that's cool. And like what do you like most about being an import over here? Is it the traveling aspect? Is it playing? Is it being an ambassador for the game?
I'm a little bit of everything, getting to travel and explore the world. I don't know when I would have, had a chance to go to Europe, if it wasn't for football.
Mhm.
Um, Being an ambassador for the game, getting to coach, in Gießen, I coach the younger receivers, and for the Sharks, I coach our receiver group, and just being able to, pass down what's been taught to me from, former NFL players that I had as coaches in college and high school. It's great to see that, teach somebody something, and then see them use it, and just see the game of football grow. I'm pretty active on social media, and I see new leagues popping up in different countries all over the world, and it's amazing. I've played football since I was 5, so it's really nice to see that other countries and a lot of people are enjoying the game.
Mhm. And did you ever, I mean, probably as a young kid, yeah, but did you ever want to play in the NFL?
Oh yeah, definitely. It's still a dream of mine. I'm only 24, so I still have time to try to get to that level, but that is definitely a goal for me long term. Right now I'm definitely just trying to, work my way up level by level. I would really love to play in the ELF someday. Like I mentioned a little bit earlier, I was in the XFL draft pool, an opportunity to play in the spring league and just, get my name out there, show what I'm able to do. That would be a big opportunity that I'm definitely working hard to get.
Cool. So, how did everything start? You said you started playing football when you were 5,
Yeah, yeah.
in Pop Warner.
Yeah, so I actually started off flag football in Minnesota. At the time, went until you were 13 years old, I believe. My bad, my bad. It went till about fifth grade. And then when I reached, I did have that wrong actually. It's third grade. So third grade, you're about 8 or 9.
Hmm.
When I got to third grade, my family moved to Wisconsin. And in Wisconsin, it starts in fifth grade. Then when I reached the fifth grade, my family moved back to Minnesota. And I was like, all right, I'm gonna play soccer for a year. So I was actually a goalie for 1 year. And after that, I got to sixth grade. I was 12 years old, and middle school started, and I decided to go back out for football. So I started playing tackle football when I was 12. I started as a defensive end. I played that throughout middle school. I started playing some tight end in middle school as well. When I got to high school, I was an outside linebacker and wide receiver. And then, I got to college. I got recruited as a wide receiver, and I've been that ever since.
Cool. And how do you like, I mean, you coach, so obviously you know a lot about training. You've been coached. How do you structure your training? Just take us through like your cycle from off season to what you're doing now.
Yeah. So like the beginning of off season, I take a couple weeks, go through the film, see what, I want to work on, see what I need to improve. I look at my like weight room stats, the how much weight I'm lifting, stuff like that. And I start to make plans to, improve in those areas, whether it's diet, my nutrition, or specific workouts to focus on muscle groups or footwork drills that, I go practice on a football field or in a park somewhere. Um, and I put that work in, and I have a schedule. When I was in college, I was given, summer workout books, winter workout books. I reference those a lot, and
Mhm.
it keeps me on a schedule. Do it this many times a week. These are your rest periods. So that really helps. And then when I get into the season, I basically do the same thing. I cut it down a little bit. I have practice twice a week in a game, sometimes on the weekends. So if I have a game, I'm in the weight room 3 days a week, practicing twice a week, and then a game. So I'm still busy 6 days of the week.
Hey.
And yes, yeah. And if I don't have a game, then I just add a lift day on the weekend. So it's really, it's been Monday through Saturday for me since I got to college, and I try to keep it that way.
Hmm. And how does your schedule or your training regimen change from off season to in season? Because I remember I used to play linebacker,
Mhm.
and every now and then I was so stupid as to go like full blast in the gym and then have a game on Saturday. And I remember one game specifically, I was so proud. Like on Thursday before the game on Saturday, I'd broken my squat personal record,
Mhm.
and like every second of the game I was like, congratulations, stupid, now you can't walk. you know so, and I didn't know anything about periodization. I didn't know how to like how to back off, and because everything was just like, dumb kids in the gym, full
Mhm.
blast, let's go. So what do you do in that regard?
Well, I had a really good weight room coach, and he was also a linebacker coach at my college. That kind of taught us that kind of stuff. It was basically what he went to college for. It was most of his degree, and he basically said, you gotta do this kind of reps, these kinds of weights. And for me personally, I just kind of took that, and I like to do, especially during the season. I might do a little heavier weights maybe on a Monday or Tuesday,
Mhm.
and then, on like the Thursday, my practices this season are on Wednesdays and Fridays. So on a Thursday, I might do some upper body. Tuesdays, I'm doing lower body. Monday, I'm doing full body. And then games on Saturday. So it's a long time between doing lower body and my game. So that my legs aren't too tired. And then on that Thursday, I'm just not using too heavy a weight so that my arms aren't sore come game day.
Mm,
So
yeah.
I definitely look for more like higher reps, lower weights as it gets closer to game day, and then kind of during the recovery period, I have Sundays off, and then get back with heavier weights.
Mhm. And do you do like mostly Olympic lifts or basic bodybuilding movements, for lack
Um,
of better words?
yeah, I would say mostly Olympic lifts. The basic ones are definitely still there. Squats, bench press. I do leg press a lot. I do some calisthenics as well. Oh yeah, a lot of it's, still stuff that I picked up in college. My college program had a big impact on me and really kind of developed me into the player that I was. So yeah, I do a lot of, dumbbell barbell movements, Bulgarian squats, stuff like that.
So a lot of unilateral stuff too for that core strength.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And then I do abs every day as well that I work out.
Hmm.
Especially as a receiver, I believe core is important. I see guys like DeAndre Hopkins, Odell Beckham talk about stuff like that. So, if that's something that they're doing and I want to get to that level, then that's something that I need to do.
Yeah, and I think a lot of German receivers still underestimate that, especially in the lower levels, because they're like, "Oh, I just have to be fast."
Hmm.
But I think, especially if you have those contested catches, you also have to be very strong and durable.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, growing up, I was never the fastest. Even now, I'm not really the fastest. I'm a little bit faster in Germany than I am in the States. I like to tell people, but I still wouldn't consider myself, like a fast receiver by any means. But I like to say I could tell the defense the route that I'm running and then walk it. I'm still going to catch the ball. I don't one, two, three guys on me when that ball's in the air. I'm the one coming down with it, and that goes. There's a lot of hand drills that I do. Guys throwing like the three colored sticks at you, telling you what color to catch, working on the hand-eye coordination, working on
Cool.
grip strength, so it's not just legs and arms, it's forearm workouts, it's like specific hand workouts. It's working on stuff like that. It's like the 1% things that you don't even think of, but in a split second moment where it comes down to muscle memory, like those kinds of things really help me out.
Yeah, I like the way you seem to incorporate that mental aspect, like the neural aspect, hand-eye coordination. Also, it's a concentration thing.
Mhm.
Um, because I know those kind of drills very well because I'm an air traffic controller, and every 3 years I get sent on a 4-week rehabilitation thing because shift work and stress drains your body basically.
Mhm.
And they make us do a lot of the same things, like throw different balls at us. And if you catch it with your right hand, you say red. If you catch it with the left hand, you say blue. And then you, on different numbers, you walk a certain way or turn around, all that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
And I think I'm so sometimes I'm so frustrated that I know all this now that I'm 42. I would have liked to know it when I was 16, 17,
Yeah.
and like where it would have had an impact on my development and on my play, because I think that's a great advantage that you young guys have nowadays.
Mhm.
All that knowledge is out there. So that's why I think I've been watching football, especially here in Germany, for I'd say about 35 years.
Mhm.
And it's like the level of play and the level of athleticism has gotten so good um, that I have to say, like, it's, I think, as good as it's never been. Maybe not quality of play, maybe not game intelligence, but just what you guys can do, or like Germans can do. I mean, some of them can actually can hang with Americans, and
Mhm.
I'm always surprised when that happens.
Yeah, I always remember we were playing, I believe it was Ingolstadt in the GFL 2 last season, and I was talking to the imports after a game. And they're like, "Oh, that linebacker over there, he's got to be an import, right?" No, that's a German guy. That's he's just a good linebacker. But yeah, you kind of mentioned, like the hand-eye coordination stuff. I don't remember where I learned it, but it's always gonna stick with me that, you don't catch the ball with your hands, you catch the ball with your eyes. I could use my elbows and catch the ball, but I can't use my hands if my eyes are closed. So, that's just something that's always stuck to me that I try to tell receivers that I coach.
Very true. Like just this Sunday, I saw a GFL 1 game, and there were so many drops because you
Mhm.
saw guys looking up, bracing for the hit before they actually had the ball.
Mhm.
Um, it what goes through your head when you're going on an inside route or something like that? You know you're going to get hit, and the ball's in the air.
It hurts less when you catch the ball.
Really?
Yeah, I've been in those situations. I mean, you're crossing the middle and you see the ball coming. It's first job is I have to catch this. Whatever's happening around me doesn't matter. You can't get yards after catch without the catch. So you
True.
have to catch the ball. Now me, I'm a little bit bigger, I'm 6'4", 215, 220 pounds. So, I'm a little bit of a bigger receiver. So I can absorb hits, compared to smaller slot guys. But yeah, there's definitely a thought like, I hope the middle linebacker isn't too close to me right now. But you got to catch the ball, and you catch the ball for a first down and get leveled. my first thought is first down, move the chains. It's not, oh, that hit, kind of hurt. But if I don't catch the ball and I get hit and the linebacker blows up the play, then I'm definitely thinking, yeah, that hit did kind of hurt. I didn't get anything out of it. So at least, with the punishment of the hit, I'm gonna get my reward, which is catching the ball, getting yards for the team.
Yeah. And is there a lot of grip strength exercises that you do in your training?
Yeah. So I mean, like, I can't think of what they're called, but like, like there's things that you can like squeeze. There's
Hmm.
like two handles you squeeze together. So I've done stuff like that. And a lot of it too, I do a lot of like ball workouts and stuff, like just throwing the ball back and forth using my fingertips and like juggling. I find juggling helps a lot with the hand-eye coordination and grip. I can actually juggle footballs
What?
pretty well. Yeah. I take pride in my juggling. I can actually juggle three of any object as long as it's not too heavy. So like, using different size objects, like if I had access to it, like I would do like a golf ball, basketball, football, and juggle those three items. Just switch up stuff like that. But yeah, there's definitely a lot of like grip, like preparation that goes into that to be able to snatch a ball out of the air.
Wow, that's amazing. Um, I, I've heard a lot of people doing like different sports, like multi-sport athletes because everything kind of translates. And if you keep your mind working because you learn new stuff, then it always translates to your main sport. I've heard boxing. I've heard dancing out of all things because that's also a lot of coordination and core work, but I've never heard juggling. I like that.
Yeah, well, like I mentioned earlier, my sister played basketball. I grew up in a basketball family, so
Uh-huh.
I think that helped a lot. I always like being, the big man down low, and going for rebounds is just like going for a jump ball. So, I'm sure that definitely, correlates to the success that I've had on the football field.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Um, what I've always liked about your play in Gießen is that you were like, I like to call you the silent contributor. It's
Mhm.
like there was never a lot of big fuss about you, but like as quiet as you were and as humble as you were, you came in, I think, sixth overall in receptions per game.
Mhm.
Um, so like every now and then I had the feeling that AJ Springer, who was quarterback for the Dragons that time, he was trying to distribute balls to everyone to keep the defense guessing to like not lock on one guy.
Mhm.
Whereas whenever he called your number, it was like almost always a short catch.
Mhm.
So I was like, was there anything about like passing balls around to everybody? Did they try to focus on that or were you just covered?
Well, I know like for Gießen specifically, I think teams knew AJ is a great quarterback.
Oh, he is.
One of the best quarterbacks I've played with. Um, but I think teams knew going in, and I don't remember what team it was, but I mean, I've heard teams on the sideline yell at us during games, you got to guard 7 and 11, which was me and Eric.
Hmm.
And so teams definitely did key in on us. I've always taken pride in when the ball's thrown my way, I'm catching it and I'm moving the chains. But yeah, I definitely think, a specific game when we played Ingolstadt, I think we were projected to lose by probably about like 30 points. I don't
Hmm.
think anybody believed in us. And I think we only lost by 7 or 8.
Yeah.
And two of our last three pass attempts of that game went to me. And, unfortunately, in the moment, I wasn't able to capitalize on them. There was good defense being played. But, it was the faith that AJ had in me that, I think in those moments, the defense knew that I was the guy they were going to, being the import. And, we knew it. And, it's just one of those games that didn't quite work out. But, it's those situations that that I look forward to. I want to be able to capitalize those, and more often than not, I believe that I do because we had those situations in other games as well where I was able to come through for the team. In situations like when we were playing the Bad Homburg Sentinels,
Hmm.
and I was able to move the chains for us when we were struggling, or on the other side of the coin, the first time we played the Stuttgart Scorpions, Eric had 4 touchdowns in the slot because I
Hmm.
was getting double teamed over the top every time when he was running a seam down the middle. and it created a lot of opportunities for him. And he's a great athlete, and he capitalized on them. Whereas the second time we played the Scorpions, I had two 40-plus yard touchdowns because, they played the middle more heavy because Eric went off last game, and it allowed me to, put up the numbers that I did that game.
Yeah, you two or you three. I'd like to throw Benedict in that mix too.
Mhm.
It was really beautiful to watch. Even
Yeah.
if you guys lost the game, you put on a great show.
Yeah, I honestly think we might have had one of the best, if not the best, receiving cores in the GFL2 that year.
Yeah, I mean, in my mind, definitely. Um, Even though like every now and then, size wise, you guys were outmatched, especially against Ingolstadt. I remember that game, and Ingolstadt was playing tough and physical, but
Mhm.
man, were they laying it down on some of y'all.
Yeah, yeah. I can't think of his name exactly, but they had a defensive import who was also their defensive coordinator. And like one of the first few plays of the game, I think I was running a route and I just ran straight at him and lowered my shoulder into him. And I was just like I know you're big, like I know you're there, you're experienced, but I'm gonna let you know that I'm here too. Like I was me trying to send a message to him. And also one of the reasons I like to be on kickoff, like you have to be on offense to keep me off the field. So
Awesome. I used to hate kickoff. Oh, they.
yeah,
I mean,
I grew up playing defense. So I grew up defensive end outside linebacker. So I love tackling people, and I didn't get that opportunity as much when I moved to wide receiver. I don't let my quarterbacks throw interceptions, I like to say. So I don't get to tackle too many guys. So I make sure that I get on kickoff. So yeah, I like being on kickoff. It's definitely my favorite special team.
yeah, you do have some hits on you.
Yeah, I was actually for the Golden Dragons, I was actually fourth in turnovers, and I never played a snap of defense.
Damn. Yeah, but just, I mean, have you been following Gießen lately?
Yes, I stay in touch with a couple guys there. Me and AJ still talk. Yeah, but I have been following them. I know that they've had a tough start to the season. I hope that they're able to find success down the road. They've had, some tough opponents. But yeah, I have been following them. I still stay up to date on social media.
Yeah. Yeah, now they lost their first three games.
Mhm.
And I mean, unfortunately for AJ, I think he's still playing slightly injured.
Okay.
He has a calf injury, but he's been playing really well. I mean, he's been putting balls where they have to, where they
Mhm.
have to be, just being AJ. Um, but unfortunately, Eric's out. I think he'll be back mid-season. And Benedict is playing, I think, with an injured shoulder. So his main goal is to not get tackled. So he just like catches the ball and then goes down.
Yeah,
Um, 100% understandable. But because he says, well, if I get popped in my shoulder, I might fumble the ball. And I don't want to risk that. So
right.
that's what he does. Um, yeah, and then I don't think there's a running back that they have import wise. No, they're playing with Anthony Dixon.
Hmm.
He's their workhorse guy. He's doing a good job.
Hmm.
But defensively, man, maybe you can solve this puzzle for me because watching the last game, it was like the import quarterback passing to the import receiver.
Hmm.
And it was all just the receiver outrunning everybody. Then mid third quarter, too late, for my personal opinion, they started bracketing the guy,
Hmm.
and he was just so fast that he outran both of them.
Hmm.
So from a defensive standpoint, my idea would have been, just go, just put a receiver in, somebody who can run, and just have him play man all the time, and then just have a safety or a corner play below. That would have been my solution. I talked to another friend of mine who used to be defensive coordinator, and also play linebacker. He said he would have put his best linebacker on the guy and made sure that he couldn't get on his route.
Hmm.
So what would you have done?
Um, no, I'm not exactly like the defensive mastermind. I'm a little more of like an offensive, play caller, beat the defense kind of guy.
Uh-huh.
But speed is tough to beat. You can improve your speed, but if you're running a 4.3 40-yard dash, if you're that level speed, like that's just natural. That's you're born with that. I agree with, you got to double team him. If you put, a more physical guy, at the line to try to press him, try to slow him down. But, with speed, I'm sure he has a couple great releases as well to, get a slower linebacker, in a position that the receiver wants him in. And then, you just can't get beat over the top, and if that means starting 12 yards off the line and bailing right away, then you have to do that and come up to make the tackle if he runs a short route. Um, it is definitely tough. I remember last year we had a couple situations we put Eric in at corner, to guard better receivers. And I know you said that he's a little hurt right now, so that might have been an issue that they were having, not being able to put him on that side of the ball. But yeah, I mean, speed is definitely a killer. It's one of the favorite stats of football guys. You see a guy that's running a 4.3, 4.4, 40-yard dash. um, it's definitely hard to beat, but double teaming a bracket and then trying to slow them down at the line with a physical linebacker who also has quality footwork, so they don't get beat too easy at the line.
Hmm. And we've been talking a lot about players coming from the US and coming to Germany. Now there's been a lot of players in the last couple of months, maybe even 3 years, I'd say, that have started going from Germany to the US,
Mm-hmm.
and playing college over there. Some of them even make it to the pros or just made it to the pros recently. What would be your advice for a German player who's just now like flirting with the idea of going full clip, trying to put everything into it to then maybe even make it to the NFL?
Yeah. When I was in college, I actually had a running back on our roster who was from Switzerland.
Cool.
Um, yeah, so we had international guys at my college playing sports, a couple of them, and I mean, I would say one of the biggest differences is it's 6 days a week. Over here, teams are practicing twice a week. I do believe even the ELF, it only practices twice a week,
Mm.
and I mean, in college, it was Monday through Saturday, and on Sunday, you're either doing recovery or you're watching film. So I mean, it was really 7 days a week, but you're practicing 2.5 hours, maybe 3 hours, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Friday, you're practicing maybe 1.5 to 2 hours, more of a walkthrough, getting prepared for the game on Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
And on Saturday, you're playing that game. Afterwards, maybe do some recovery. And then on Sunday, you're doing more recovery and you're watching film from that game. And then once you're done with film from that game, you're watching film for next week's game, and you flip that switch that, last week is last week and we're focused on this week. And then you're back at it 5 days a week of practice, preparing for that next game.
Yeah.
So
And oh, sorry.
no, sorry. I would definitely say, just be prepared. You got to be in, conditioned for that.
Yeah. And if you watch film specifically as a wide receiver, what are you looking at? Are you looking at your releases? Are you looking at your running mechanics? What are you looking at?
Yeah, so if I'm looking back at a game, I'm looking at my releases. If I tried a new release, did this release work? Where did the cornerback, move when I, moved a specific way? How clean was my breaks and my routes? Did I make a speed cut? Like, did I round my break, or did I, make a square cut, put my foot in the ground to make a hard break in? How effective were they against different coverages? I'm watching the defense, like, oh, cornerback bailed. I should have ran a shorter hitch instead of, if he was manned up, maybe run a longer hitch to make him think I was going deep. Just stuff like that. Whereas if I'm looking forward to, next week's matchup, I'm looking at what are the defense's tendencies. If the cornerback's lined up like this, what coverages is he dropping into most of the time? And how can I run my routes based off of what coverage I believe he's in? Where does the safety line up if we're in trips versus, if we have two running backs, if we have a tight end in, because where the safeties line up might affect, the angle I run a post at. How are their linebackers dropping? Where would I run a slant? Stuff like that. So it's definitely more, going into a game, looking at what do I think will work, and then looking back at a game, going, okay, where was I right? What can I keep? what do I need to, maybe say, I don't think this will work in the future. Let's try to find something that'll be a more effective rep for the next game.
Oh, so you really alter your routes just based on the alignment alone?
I definitely can. It depends on the playbook that I have. I've had some coaches say, hey, you run a hitch at 5 and you sit at 5. I've had coaches say, run your hitch at 6, come back to 5. I've had coaches say, you run a curl, at, 15 to 12, 12 to 10. And I had a coach in college say, you run your curl at 12 yards and you come back until you get the ball. If you don't get the ball, you should run into your quarterback. So, it definitely depends, what the coaches, allow you to do and, what the playbook allows you to do. But there is definitely, depending on the coverage, there is definitely different ways that I run routes. If I know it's man coverage and I'm running, let's say, a wheel, I'll turn my head back to the quarterback so they think it's an out route, and then I'll snap up field and try to get them to bite on the out route so that I can get up the field and be open. Whereas if I know it's zone, they're not looking at me anyways, they're looking at the quarterback. So maybe I run a little bit shorter of an out route just to get up the field quicker.
Oh, I see. I see. Yeah, because like from the defensive side, it's like, basically, I'm always looking like playing outside linebacker now. If I have two receivers on one side, I just want to make sure like which one's coming at me and which one's going deep. That's all I'm looking for. That's where your double cut routes come in
Mhm.
because yeah, they make a defensive player bite one way and then something else happens, of course. But it's really interesting to hear the offensive perspective, like for a change. Um,
Yeah, I mean, if you can make every route look the same until you're at the point of, you know, telling what route you're running, the defense doesn't know what you're doing until the last second, and the defense has to react. So, if the more difficult you can make it for the defense to react, the better off you are as the offensive player.
So you're really like playing 3D chess with your defender even before it happens, right? Because you have your plan and you try to show him the opposite so that he reacts in a different way um to then like create a bigger opening for what it is that you want to do.
Yeah, definitely. And a big part of it is, getting to the line, looking at the corners, the safeties, the linebackers, saying, okay, they're in this coverage or they might be in this coverage. And then as the ball snapped and I'm running my route, I'm still reading those players. So I'm saying, okay, this is where they're dropping to. This is the coverage that they're rolling into. This is where I have to be to get the ball in my route. So there definitely is, a lot of thought that goes into it. You have to be able to think, about multiple things while you're running a route, reading the defense, making sure you're getting the right steps or to the right yard marker, making sure that, I'm getting low in my breaks and I'm coming back to the ball and attacking the ball.
And is that like do you like remember that in form of an algorithm that like if you say, okay, I see those two players reacting that way, that means I run route XYZ? Or do you kind of like just feel it and just drop into open space?
I would say it's a little bit of both. If I'm running like a drag route, if it's like a mesh concept and there's two drag routes coming towards each other,
Mhm.
I'm one of those players that, if the playbook allows me to, I'm gonna sit in a gap. If it's a zone defense and I realize it's a zone defense, I'm gonna sit down between two linebackers. And that's definitely something that you just get a feel for that, there's nobody that close to me right now. I'm gonna sit down here and hope my quarterback sees me. But if it's something like, the cornerback is, maybe 5 yards off and he's looking at my quarterback when the ball snapped, my first thought is it's zone coverage. Otherwise, he'd be looking at me. And if his hips aren't facing me, then, it's just another thing that goes into me thinking it's zone coverage. And then if he comes up, I think it's covered too. So I have to run, more if I'm running a post, I have to run a more flat post so I can split the safeties. If I see the safety coming over the top of me, and if he bails, then I would, assume that it's possibly a cover 3 or cover 4, and I know I have to run a skinnier post so that I can avoid the middle of the field where there's another safety.
Oh, so if you're lined up like on the line and you're playing against the cover two, you're not even worried about that cornerback. You're already thinking about the safety by the time you release.
Well, I definitely have to worry about the cornerback, just depending on the route, but I am definitely watching the safety as well. So, I mean, if I'm running something like just a simple fade and the cornerback's up, I'm going to try to outside release. So if it's corner two or cover two and I outside release and I have, let's say, an out breaking route coming towards me, if I'm able to get the corner to turn his back to me, that's going to help my slot receiver get open because the cornerback's eyes are taken off, trying to keep hands on me. And then if he lets me go, then hopefully I'm so far away from the safety coming over that I'm able to get the ball in the hole shot there.
Mm.
Whereas if it is something like cover three, maybe I'll go a little bit more inside of him, and again try to get in the way. If it's a quick out to my slot receiver, he gets the ball, then I'm able to block that corner if I'm in good positioning. Whereas if I'm outside of him, then it's more difficult for me to block for my teammate.
Yeah, absolutely. Because in cover three, the flats are the soft spots anyway.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah. Wow. That's interesting. um Now, what is it like working with German coaches? I don't know who they have in Tollense, to be honest. I know that they rebooted the team basically. And I think it's a tradition team, but like the last couple of years were pretty dark up there. This is what I understand. Like from level of play, from coaching, from people that they were able to get. And it looks like they completely turned it around now. How's the coaching there?
Yeah, yeah. From my understanding, COVID kind of, had a big hit on them, and they were kind of, you know, not quite where they used to be. From that, just lower numbers, stuff like that. Right now, we have a great head coach, Daniel Barsh. He's doing a good job. He's also our defensive coordinator. He's a great defensive mind, and offensively, our left tackle used to be our offensive coordinator. He came back to play, so he's on the field. He's a big help, especially with the run game. And then when I came over, it was kind of explained to me that I would have an input with our offense, meaning like play calls and stuff like that, along with my quarterback. So me and my quarterback mostly have been calling the plays. It's probably pretty close to 50-50 play calling me and him every game. And so it's been really good so far. This season is kind of like we're the OCs in a way, because we don't have somebody with that exact title.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, it's been really good, and definitely working on getting the Sharks back to where they were before. I just think the biggest struggle is that it's a numbers game. It's a little bit smaller of a town. A lot of their youth guys, go off to university, and that's just a small part that does kind of hurt the team. So it's definitely just getting the brand of the Tollense Sharks back out there and getting people interested in it again.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely created a storm in Oberliga Ost. For the American people listening, that's like the German football system is divided into kind of like divisions in college. You have GFL 1, that's your main division. Then you have GFL 2 under that, and then under that it's Regionalliga, and under that it's Oberliga. So it's like the fourth league, so to speak. And if you win a league, then you get to graduate to the next higher league. And if you lose that league, you have to go down one tier. That's basically how it works. And you guys have won 4 games in a row. And you've really put on a lot of points. So how would you describe the level of play now, having a comparison between the second highest division in German football playing the fourth highest division now?
Yeah. Well, I would definitely say like the biggest difference is there's less imports at this level. Um, Now, I mean, that doesn't mean that like the quality of athletes any lower. There's definitely some, really good football players that I'm going against, guys that, their tackling is really good, or guys that can play, really good defense, like against, receivers when the ball's in the air. And, there's guys who just fundamentally are really sound. Um, but it's still the connection that me and my quarterback have, that we've been able to do what we have done so far this season. I trust him to put the ball where I need it, and he trusts me to catch the ball. So yeah, I mean um it's definitely a difference from second to fourth league. But I go out there and I do what I know how to do, and I take advantage of the opportunities that I get.
Nice. Could you just read us your stats again for this year? Because I
Yeah.
mean, we talked about it before, and it sounds wild.
Yeah. So for this season, we've had 4 games so far. I've had 43 catches, 790 yards, 778 of those are receiving. I have 7 rushing and 5 passing. I have 11 touchdowns, 9 receiving, 1 rushing, 1 passing. I have 10 tackles, 8 are on kickoff, 2 are on punt team, where I'm also the long snapper. I have 3 punt returns for 52 yards and 5 kickoff returns for 132 yards.
Jesus.
Yeah.
And are you like banged up at all or?
Yeah, I mean, I take hits. We had an away game that we were playing on, a material that reminded me of AstroTurf. So
Uh-huh.
you hit the ground, my elbow was bruised up, a little bit after that game. We just played a solid team this last Sunday, and I got tackled hard a couple of times. Hit the ground hard. It's grass. I love playing on grass, but the knees still get bruised, and it's nothing too serious. I've been very lucky in my career to not have the worst injury history, which I'm very thankful for.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, there's like I said, there's guys who can hit. And
Yeah.
my job is, to be able to absorb those hits and put myself in situations where I'm not getting hit too hard, or I'm able to, maybe like stiff arm a guy to reduce the impact, or put him in a position where he can't use, all of his power to hit me. And part of that is my trust in my quarterback too, that he's not gonna throw me the ball where I'm in a spot where a middle linebacker is gonna take my head off, or
Yeah.
not gonna, throw me, what we call like a hospital pass. You know,
Possible.
yeah. So yeah, it's something, I trust him. He's not leading me into his safety or anything like that. So yeah, definitely take, there's bumps and bruises, of course, that's just the game of football, but I've been able to stay healthy.
Hmm. Now that AstroTurf field, was that against the Berlin Bullets by any chance?
It was the Bears, but
The
we
Bears?
do play the Berlin Bullets at their field as well, and I was told that theirs is very similar.
Yeah.
So yeah, yeah, not super excited about playing on that. So that's definitely a game. I might try to get to the sideline more often than usual, but yeah, definitely. I'm one of those guys. I lower my shoulder into contact. I fight for extra yards. So, it's just in a game like that. I just have to be a little bit more aware. Hey, maybe try not to get taken out at the knees in a game like this because the turf isn't that soft, or, something like that.
Yeah. I don't know if you're the kind of receiver that'll wear knee pads, but I would definitely recommend them on that field.
Yeah, I do wear knee pads. I'm thinking about for that game, maybe get some bigger ones to put in the pants themselves, because my current ones are kind of a little bit above the knee and they're a little bit thinner. So I'm definitely thinking about doubling up and getting a little more protection for on and a little bit below the knee.
Yeah, oh man, I remember playing on that field. It was so wild because I don't know if they have that in the States too, but in Germany, if you get bloodied up,
Mhm.
you have to go out and have to get that taken care of, then you can get back in.
Mhm.
And I was playing with the Berlin Cobras, who I just saw you guys are playing on October 1st.
Yep.
Um, I might I might drive up to Berlin and watch you guys play. Yeah, we played the Bullets with the Cobras,
Mhm.
and I just got rug burn on that thing, so I had to get substituted out, and we didn't have a doctor or physical trainer or anything. We just had like an injured player who took care of taping guys. So instead of like asking me what's going on or if I had like a gauze pad or anything, he just put tape on on that rug burn, which was all fine and dandy until it came time to take it back off.
Yeah. 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 Well, I noticed there's not a lot of like pre-wrap out here for, like taping up ankles or anything. So
Right.
I imagine that that's pretty tough. I've been able to play without getting ankles taped out here. But yeah, it's definitely tough just having straight tape on a wound or on a cut.
Yeah, I hope for your sake that they remodel that place and that it's not the same thing because it's like playing on a rug on a concrete runway or something.
Yeah, I've heard it described that way. So I'm guessing it probably hasn't changed too much, but for me, I wear sleeves and I wear leggings, so I think that does help a little bit in terms of getting like rug burn type of injuries.
Mm.
But yeah, it's definitely just one of those games. Try to when I get tackled, try not to go down as hard. Definitely try to keep the head up, on a turf, on a surface like that. I feel like you definitely run the risk of, getting like whiplash concussions, which
Hmm.
is definitely a scary thing. And so it's definitely something, you try to stay on your feet. If you're getting pushed out of bounds, maybe you go out of bounds instead of, diving forward for a couple extra yards. So it's definitely something, depends on the situation of the game, but it's definitely one of those services that you want to keep yourself safe on.
Yeah. But I mean, it might be right along your lines because I do remember it speeding the game up really drastically because it makes you, I don't know the physical reason for it, but it makes you run faster.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's just because it's shorter. There's less like drag, less resistance, less
Mm.
friction. That's kind of like why people say that people are slower on grass. I just think
Mm.
that it's less running resistance. There's less drag from the cleats, and yeah, it'll be nice. I was with an arena football team for a few weeks before coming out here during their training camp, and indoor fields use surfaces like that. So it was something I do have a little bit of experience with. And then we, played at the Berlin Bears and their field was like that. So I do have some preparation or some stuff that I can get prepared to play on a surface like that. So I'll be wearing, gym shoes instead of cleats.
Hmm.
With cleats, you'll be slipping all over. And it's really just, more focus on keeping your feet underneath you, not reaching in your routes and your brakes so that you're not slipping. And then, yeah, just keeping yourself safe, maybe wearing a little bit thicker of a long sleeve or like I'm planning to put in extra knee pads just to keep my knees a little more protected. So, yeah.
Yeah. Now we've touched injuries a little bit, and we touched your plans of perhaps still playing for the NFL. So of course, like, is injury prevention something that's in your head? Like when you go out and you're about to initiate a contact, are you like, okay, I'm not gonna I'm not gonna charge head on into this guy, or I'm not gonna like lower my shoulder this time because next year is coming. I can imagine as an import, that's one thing that's like constantly on your mind.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely something that you think about, outside of the games. For me personally, in the games, my goal is to win. I'm focused on winning, do what I can to help my team get to that. At the end of the four quarters, that we have more points than the other team.
Mm.
So, I lower my shoulder. I'm a big receiver. Playing some tight end now, and I run block. I take pride in my ability to run block, and I throw guys around. I lower my shoulder into guys, and just the big thing that I would say I don't necessarily think about anymore, but it's just like I would say muscle memory is keep your head up.
Mm.
I'm not lowering my head into guys. I'm lowering my shoulder. I'm keeping parts of my body safe, but other parts I know can take a hit.
Mm.
And then, yeah, it's definitely, the thought of, hey, there's next year, but the thing is, not even tomorrow's guaranteed. So how am I going to have my best film for next season for those teams if I'm worried about, stuff in the game like that? If I'm worried about, oh, I don't want to lower my shoulder on this play because I might get hurt. Teams might see me as, oh, he's not a physical receiver. So in
Mm.
order to get to that level, I have to show what I can do here. And, in the moment, it's really not something you think about. It's just the small things like keep my head up, stuff like that, stay low in my breaks. I've been rolled up on a couple of times by linemen, coming from the back on a run, and that's definitely the scariest moment.
Mm.
You feel them start rolling up on your foot, and the first thought is, please don't let something get torn in my leg. But it's also, knowing that if I just go down easy, if I don't try to fight it, that definitely helps. If I fold back and I bend my knee and I go down with the contact, then that definitely helps rather than trying to fight and keep my footing when I'm getting rolled up on. Because I would say, 9 times out of 10, the running back's getting tackled into me. So it's not like I would do much to help my team, trying to keep my feet and stay standing in those situations. But
Mm,
it's definitely it's definitely important to me, to show my abilities, and part of it is my physical gameplay. So I have to stay physical, in order to get to the team that I want to play for next year. I have to show that I can do that this year.
yeah. Have you already been talking to other teams about next year? Like what
Um,
time does that usually start?
Not yet. Most recruiting starts about October, November. Um, I have teams that I was talking to last year that want me to reach out after this season. Um, a lot of times, I remember when I graduated college, I had a lot of guys say, "We already signed our imports. I like your film. I like, a lot of teams like, big receivers like me. And, I got a lot of positive feedback, but it was a lot of, we already signed our guys.
Mm,
And I started the process maybe like late December, early January after college. So I was late getting to it. And then after the GFL2 season last year, I was a little bit more on top of it. And it was just one of those situations. I had teams interested, but a lot of them were, we're gonna go, maybe with a smaller, faster guy. Or I had an offensive coordinator say, "Hey, I really like you, but when I showed you to our head coach, he already decided on a guy." So, it's a lot of situations like that, which, it's just part of the business. I know it's not personal. So, it means a lot more when teams like that say, "Hey, let's stay in touch. Let me know where you end up playing. Let's reach out next year and see if we can make this happen."
mm. Was there any chance after last year of you going back to Gießen?
Um, I was definitely interested. I started hearing things about the second to third last game that they might not bring me back.
Mm,
And I just didn't really think about it. It was one of those situations where I had to play my best regardless of what I was hearing, because whether it was Gießen or another team, I wanted to send them the best film that I could.
mm,
And yeah, at the end of the season, I talked to the coaches who were, amazing coaches. And I said, "Hey, I'm interested in coming back if you guys are interested in having me." And, they were really respectful about it. And they just said, "We feel like we need the help on defense. We want to spend our import spot on defense." And they felt like their youth receivers coming up, were able to, you know, um, help out the receiving core well enough that AJ would be okay to lead that offense.
yeah. I understand the move, like from a budgeting point of view, because I know Gießen has pretty limited resources when it comes to being able to pay big money and maybe even have a lot of imports. Not necessarily, I don't necessarily agree with the way they went. They signed a defensive lineman, great guy. Like from a personal aspect, great guy, great player. But just looking at the problems that they have, like with the depth in the defensive backfield, I would have hoped for like a shutdown corner or a safety, because you know you're going to be playing a lot of import receivers, and sometimes some of the guys that they have are just outmatched. Now I know they're still battling injuries. Apparently, I know a couple of guys are going to come back, but they don't have the resources to sign somebody like mid-season.
Mhm.
That's very unfortunate. And also the fact that like for the second year in a row, they haven't been able to generate too much pressure on the quarterback. Um, which would help if you have like a weaker defensive backfield, to not have have a guy have all day to throw. So yeah, that's it's really unfortunate in that regard. Also, I like I said before, I loved watching you play.
Mhm.
Um, but like the talent that they have on receiver is, I think that's one of their strengths in the team, on the roster, like the depth and the talent that they have on receivers. I can understand um, the way they made that decision. Now, if I wanted to become an import player, an American import player, and play in Germany, what kind of salaries am I looking at?
Well, I talk to as many imports as I can. I'm a pretty social person, especially, when I can have, English conversations with people from America, maybe similar backgrounds. It's just a little bit easier to communicate.
Yeah.
Um, But yeah, I mean, I've seen anywhere from, guys making, a few €100 with all their accommodations handled to, I mean, obviously guys on the higher end making 2, 3,000 euros a month. So there's definitely a range. I've seen my experience, in the GFL too, at least, was I was seeing a lot of guys around that like 6 to 1,200 range.
Hmm.
It definitely depends on, the team and their budget. There's a lot of different like owners or funding, the way that teams get their money. Some teams have very wealthy owners, and some teams have a lot of sponsors who are big fans and give them a lot of money, whereas other teams maybe don't have an owner or only have a handful of sponsors because it's American football in a smaller town. So it definitely depends on that. I know that that's even the reason some teams, don't move up league some years is because they can't necessarily afford it.
Right.
Um, so yeah, it's definitely, there's definitely a range. But the biggest thing for me is, like the flights covered, that's maybe $1,000 each way. You know,
Hmm.
that's a big part of it. So it's not just the salary, you have to realize how much value you're getting from the teams. An apartment that might be that might be 500 to 1,000 euros a month, depending on what rent is.
Yeah, the
And
market's really bad in Germany right now.
yeah, I mean, I've had very nice living situations. I'm in a really nice apartment now, and I was in a nice house in Gießen with our D lineman import, and it's stuff like that. You get food. I get a daily meal here, and Gießen gave me a monthly food budget. Bikes, transportation, like bus passes, train tickets, stuff like that. So, it's definitely more than just the salary that goes into it. But yeah, salary wise, there's definitely a range, and I think it just depends on, what team it is, because some teams have a lot of money, and some teams, it's a little bit tighter. It really just depends on where they are and, who's in the boardroom.
Hmm. Now, what I'm going to discuss with another coach is red flags to look for when you look for imports. But you, as an import, what kind of red flags do you look for when you decide on a team?
Yeah, I've heard really positive things about a lot of the teams and coaches, owners that I've talked to people to and about. Um, I do remember hearing one story from a team that their owner used to say, "As long as I owe you money, you're not broke." I don't know how I would react to that, because if I don't have money and I need to get food and you owe me money, then how am I not broke if I'm going hungry? But then on the flip side of that, like the Sharks, for instance, they've I've had teammates take me out to eat, and like without telling me, have like covered my bill, or they buy me drinks, or the coach invites the imports to have a barbecue for lunch at his house, and there's definitely just different teams and how people do that some teams it is really like a family, and I think other teams view it more as a business, and it's just something to make sure you know what you're getting yourself into, and make sure that you're comfortable with what you're getting yourself into. I know, in Gießen, we used to, have a case of beer with the team after practice and after games. Whereas I've heard stories from other teams, after the game and practices, they just go home. People don't really hang out together. So, there's definitely, it's only my second year out here, but, it's, when you start seeing stuff like that, you start realizing, where you want to be, what kind of atmospheres you want to be in. And, it's definitely important, especially if it is something like, if you get homesick, you want to be with a team that's going to take you out places and spend time with you, not that you're stuck in, your living spot, day after day, just by yourself, or, with your one roommate. So it is definitely important to, know the atmosphere of the team, and not just, the pay or the quality of the of football being played.
Hmm. Do you ever get homesick?
Sometimes, yeah, I love my parents. I miss my parents. I think the toughest part, honestly, is my dog. My dog, I got him when he was 6 months old, my sophomore year of college, and he just turned 5 this last February. My sister watches him for me, and she's doing a great job. And I know when I get home, he's the first one that I'm, most excited to see. And yeah, so I definitely do miss my dog, but I just personally, I tell myself, I'm out here working to, give my family a better life, like give up a few years now, for 20, 30 years to live better later. Situations like that. So yeah, I just, I make sure that, I leave things on a good note. And, when I get back home in the off season that I spend time with, family and my loved ones.
Yeah. Now I just saw that you guys have two long breaks in summer. You have one break from July 8th to the 20th of August.
Mhm.
And then there's another long one after that. 20th of August is your game against the Berlin Bullets. And then like a month after that, you go to Ackner again to play the Razorbacks.
Mhm.
Now, are you going to fly home in between those times, or are you just going to stay focused and train?
I'll be staying here. That was my expectation coming over. So yeah, I'll definitely like during periods like that, I'll just be lifting a little bit more, working out more, probably do some traveling, get like the monthly bus or train pass, I was hoping maybe go down south, catch a couple games, catch up with people that I knew last year. So yeah, definitely excited for that. Last year during the about 6 week break that we had over the summer, I was able to travel, all over northern Germany when I was down in Gießen. So it's an opportunity that, if you go home, you don't get to travel other countries. Last year my parents were able to come out and visit, and I went to Amsterdam with them, and I
That's
went
awesome.
to France with them, and yeah, so it is definitely nice. So I'm definitely hoping to do that. One of my focuses this year is, just kind of like save up, do what I can on a budget, and I'm just trying to save my money up, and I have student loans, so that's part of it, but but yeah, I'll definitely get to traveling. I'll go down to Berlin. Like I mentioned before, I have some really amazing teammates out here, so I'll hang out with them. I'm sure they'll take me to a couple places. I'd like to go see the Baltic Sea. I'd like to go over to Poland for a little bit. So I definitely have stuff that I'll be looking into.
Yeah. Oh, and if you get the chance, go to Prague,
Okay. Yeah.
Czech Republic, man. It's awesome. Cheap beer, cheap good food, lots of history, lots of good looking women. Um,
Yeah, you have me at cheap beer.
yeah, that's actually where Pilsner is from. Like,
Okay.
yeah, it's from the Czech Republic, and like Budweiser, the beer, is named after a city called Budweis, and that's in Czech Republic as well. So,
Okay.
or Budovice is what it's called in the national language. So, yeah, definitely if you're a beer enthusiast, definitely a place you want to go to.
Okay. Yeah. I'll definitely have to check it out.
Yeah. And if you want to go to Gießen, like if you want to meet up in Hanover or something, that's halfway for me. If you can make it work, shoot, I'll give you a ride for the rest of the way.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. That would definitely be great.
Nice. And like one more question that I have regarding your travels and going home. What's your visa situation like? Because I thought you had to like go home every 3 months and touch base because you're only on a 3 month visa.
So I know last year my visa was good for the entire season plus a month. So in April, May, June, July, August, September. So it would have been good for 6 months. I had a 6 month visa last year. The game, I'm pretty sure I flew home like the last day of August. So it was still good for 1 month after I went home. This year, I want to say they got me, it might have been like an 8 month or 12 month visa.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, so I mean, I definitely end up going home. I fly home this season. Last game's October 1st. My flight's October 3rd. So I go home, right at the end of the season. That's just how the team scheduled it for me. Um, but yeah, I'm not the most educated on the visa situation specifically, but
Well,
yeah.
neither am I, obviously, because I thought it's only good for 3 months.
But yeah, I think the 3 month rule is if you're just visiting. So I do believe the teams give me like a work visa.
Oh,
I am, yeah. So I think that's how it's able to be more than, I think it's 90 days is just like the traveler's visa.
I get it.
Yeah. So that would be my guess. I'm pretty sure I've heard that before, that I do believe it's a work visa.
Oh, I get it now. Yeah, yeah, because yeah, you're employed, so to speak.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
now I get it.
I went to the government buildings and did all the paperwork and stuff early on. So I'm pretty sure that's what it is.
Nice. Yeah, well, let's talk about the situation in the States. What's your opinion on college players getting paid now?
I mean, I'm all for it. I did see something recently that someone was trying to like maybe put like a cap on it, to have it so, you can't make ridiculous amounts, or that certain schools can't have so much power over smaller schools. And, I definitely agree with that, maybe make it so players aren't making, you don't want to be making more in college than you would in the pros, like in
Hmm.
my opinion. Like I don't think it would get to that level, but there's definitely schools. If you look at somebody like, let's say, Oregon versus like a smaller Division 1 like FBS school, um,
Hmm.
I just think, certain schools are able to pay so much more money. And I think that does give them, a little more of an edge over the smaller schools. And I know that that was an issue with, putting NIL deals in place, was that, it changes the recruiting game completely.
Hmm.
I go to one school, if, you can only make thousands of dollars, and if you go to another school, you can make hundreds of thousands of dollars, and definitely depending on the athlete, certain players don't come from the best backgrounds, and, money is important to them. And that's why they're trying to get to the pro level, is to help their family. So if they can do it, 3, 4 years earlier in college, why not take that opportunity? I'm all for it though. I played Division 3, so the NIL money really wasn't there. But I know athletes who make money on social media through advertising. And I can't remember exactly what it was, but I remember there was a kicker who had to choose. It was either like, hey, college football, or this money that you're making on YouTube. And I do believe he stopped playing college football because he was making so much money through YouTube. And it's like, if you would have done that 5 years later, you could have done both.
Yeah.
So I definitely think something like that, like, you lose athletes because, if they're going after the money, they're going to choose, the income versus, paying college tuition to play the sport without the guarantee of getting to the pro level.
Mm.
So I do definitely think that it's something that we should have. Another plus is that NCAA football will be making video games again. But but yeah, I definitely think that is something that's good to have in place. I just think, as the years go on, they'll kind of, add to it, put certain rules in place, and I do think maybe a cap wouldn't be the worst idea.
Yeah, because I mean, either that or at least legalize all the side hustles that the guys are doing, like social media content and everything. That's but like possibly losing athletes, or the possibility of losing athletes rather, is a very interesting perspective, because I never thought about it that way. To me, it was like, first I thought, like I was like an ideologist, being like, oh no, they should be amateurs because they're studying and they get free education, and no, no, no. But as much, or the more I learned about how especially large schools like Alabama or Florida um, help their students, like, to score high enough just to be able to make the team, or just to be able to graduate with something, although they didn't take a test in their life, somebody else did it for them. um the more I learned about that, it made me think, like, okay, those guys that are playing, they're not in it for the education anyway, because like they're not, uh, they don't have any benefit from actually going to school, because you just outlined the regimen that you have. If you're a full-time student, just knock 3 hours off of every day, not counting just not being able to concentrate because you're beat up.
Mhm.
So they need something, and on top of that, college football is, if I'm not mistaken, a $1 billion industry.
definitely.
and and every school for every school, the football program is the cash cow,
Yep.
either through donations or through ticket sales or through merch.
Mhm.
And if you look at the merch, like what's on the jersey, they don't sell blank jerseys, they sell jerseys with the name of the superstar on it. So they should be able to get like something off of that, because the college is funding like its entire industry. I mean, for German people listening, American colleges are absolutely not comparable with German universities. Like German universities, you have like maybe a campus building and maybe a couple of dorms, but American colleges are cities, at least the bigger ones of them,
Yeah.
and they fund their entire infrastructure like on the back of these college football players that might get injured, that might have like conditions after they start playing active, that will like impact them for the rest of their lives, even if they're damaged goods after their college tenure and don't make it to the pros, then they're on the street.
Mhm.
So like from a fairness aspect, I think they ought to make money, but I think what you're saying is a very valid point, because it would encourage so many people to rather aim low, take what's given, and then just leave with a lot of chips still on the table.
Yeah.
So yeah, I
Well,
get it. I get it.
I do think, another plus to it is, if you're one of those guys that's like, oh, late round draft pick, for any sport, maybe not get drafted to the league, might get an opportunity as a free agent.
Mhm.
If you look at college and you say, I can go back to college and make $100,000 my final year, finish my degree in college, or I can risk getting a contract at the pro level. I definitely think that, I would think that most athletes would lean towards the NIL money, finish your degree rather than trying to take that risk. You can get another year of film, it might improve your draft stock, and then go at pro, use up your eligibility, which I know a lot of people, some people at least, complain about, like, oh, athletes shouldn't leave early, they should finish their degree. Well, the opportunity to go pro isn't always there. You can always go back to school and get your degree.
Yeah, that's another interesting aspect. Um, but what made you decide to go to University of Minnesota Morris and play Division three?
Yeah, so in high school, I actually never started a snap of varsity. I on senior night, my senior year, I got to start the second half at
Hmm.
outside linebacker. I had three varsity snaps as a receiver. My junior year, I actually won most improved JV player, and then they promoted my backups over me to varsity, and I never really got an explanation.
Hmm.
Uh, Following college, I joined the Marine Corps like early entrance program. It was like a pool of people basically getting prepared to go to boot camp. And I was 4 months away from Marine Corps boot camp when the University of Minnesota Morris called me, and they had seen one of the many recruiting profiles I had made. I told my parents, I said, hey, record me from the stands. I'm getting good film on JV, and I know that I can, make it at the college level if I can show teams what I'm able to do at some level. So I started making homemade film, and I basically started posting it on recruiting websites. And I got called 4 months before I went to boot camp. My date, I believe, was July 24th, 2017, that I would have gone to boot camp. And I got called that March. And yeah, they said, hey, we found your profile on, I believe it was like NCSW or NCSA, something like that. And they said, we want you to come play receiver for us. They saw at the time I was 6'4", 180 pounds. They said, we want you to come play receiver. And I said, 100%, I'm there. At the time it was our offensive coordinator. He said, I'm the OC for Minnesota Morris. We're interested in you. And I said, I'm on board. Let's do it. Ended the call and I immediately Googled University of Minnesota Morris. I had never heard of them. And it was a smaller school, as a smaller campus, Division 3, kind of in the country of Minnesota, and it was one of the best decisions I ever made.
Hmm.
The offensive coordinator that recruited me ended up becoming the athletic director. He's an amazing guy. He had that faith in me, and it's definitely the reason that I'm where I am today, and I have the opportunities that I do now. I got my first college start as a sophomore.
Mm.
Uh, I became a full-time starter my junior year, started every single game my senior year, and my senior year, I was able to help lead the team to the conference championship, which unfortunately we lost. But it was a big turnaround for the program that the year before I went there, they didn't win a game, and the year that I left, we were playing in the conference championship. So it was definitely a really good decision. I was happy. I was there 4.5 years. COVID gave me an extra season that I chose to go back and play.
Mm-hmm.
And then that film got me to Gießen. So I was very happy to play for the University of Minnesota Morris. They gave me an opportunity that I was very happy to take advantage of.
Nice. Well, I'm glad you did it because if you would have joined the Marines, I mean, it's a solid career as well. And I mean, you did a lot of moving as a kid and a young adult, probably because your parents were in the military as well.
No, so my parents are both actually from Milwaukee, Wisconsin originally.
Oh, okay.
So my dad actually he's worked in radio his whole life, and he had an opportunity to move back to Milwaukee at the time that my grandparents on his side were getting a bit older.
Hmm.
So we moved back to be closer with family, and then we moved back to Minnesota because things ended up not working out there the way that we expected them to. So we came back to Minnesota because he had opportunities back in the Twin Cities again. And yeah, so I mean that all happened, when I was much younger. But yeah, it's definitely something that I think I learned a lot from. My grandfather was a Marine, so my dad's dad was a Marine in World War II. So that's why I picked that branch of the military. And originally, I wanted to be military police. I ended up getting my degree in criminal justice.
Hmm.
So, I was still able to, learn about the things that I wanted to learn about. I went a path that allowed me to play football.
Yeah. I just thought that you were a military brat from the moving around aspect. That's why I just thought, oh yeah, obviously he wants to be a Marine because his whole family are Marines. Like, um, my dad was in the army,
Okay.
and yeah, that's how he came to Germany. And he used to get sent back and forth like every 7 years, I think it was. And that's how I spent 6 years close to Chicago, actually, Fort Sheridan, right on Lake Michigan. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I
So
mean, I definitely had family. I had a handful of family members that served, so it was definitely a factor, that I can follow in my family's footsteps and go that route. But as soon as I heard we want you to play football for us, I knew that was a decision I was going to make.
yeah, like 100%. I think if you travel the world as a football player, you get a little bit more out of it. I mean, instead of traveling it as a soldier, you know.
Mhm.
I'm saying?
Yeah,
Um,
I have a really good friend of mine who's doing embassy security for the Marines. So, I know that, he's living his life, and we stay in touch. But it's definitely, he tells me stories, and I think to myself, I'm happy I'm playing football.
yeah, yeah. Especially now with I mean, you never know what's gonna happen with Ukraine,
Yeah,
and all that
yeah.
crazy stuff. Yeah. But is there any way that your view and your perspective on your home country changed from living in Europe? Like maybe from other people's views of America?
Um, I wouldn't say so much from other people's views on America, but just like the way that the culture is in Europe, like the work and home separation. Um, that's definitely a big one. I always felt like in America, people are more about the money. They want to make money. People are taught, your profit should be three times your expenses. And, I think that leads to people being selfish in a lot of scenarios. Whereas, I get the feeling that in Europe, businesses want to make money, but there's not a specific number that they're set on. They don't have to make three times, four times, whatever they're making. It's more of a feeling as long as they're making profit and they can, sustain what they're doing and they can, um, and they have the like the funds, to support their life and their family, that's something that they're happy with. That it's not so much about, you know, at the end of your time on earth, they're not too worried about the number in their bank account, but they're worried about, is their family okay? Did they give their family a good life? And that's definitely a big thing that I've learned, that it is more about the connection sometimes than just making money.
Hmm, that's interesting because a lot of people say, well, living over here like opened their eyes for like all the problems that maybe that exist like on a global scale that you just don't get if you watch your local news station every night because it's very interesting. Whenever I'm in Georgia and I visit my father and I watch the news, um it takes a while to find a news outlet on regular television that tells you what's going on like in the entire world,
Mhm.
like outside of your county. And so I always have to like watch other news sources on YouTube to stay informed. And that always leads me to believe, I mean, I get it from an American standpoint, especially from a Bible Belt American standpoint. It's like what happens in the rest of the world really doesn't make a difference to you because you're working hard, and you want to know what's going on in your county because usually that's like your lateral boundary of existence, so to speak, um and but also I think it's kind of sad because a lot of these people I think are very interested in what's going on in the world. It's just that their perspective that they get is like completely filtered and altered depending if they're like on Team CNN or Team Fox.
Yeah, yeah. I was just gonna say, I think a big issue with the American political system is we have two parties.
Mm.
It's you're either left or right, and in my 24 years, I feel like every year it gets further apart. And, at this point, if you're in the middle, you're seen as the other side. So, I think that's definitely one of the issues with, like American broadcasting, kind of like world issues like that, is
Mm.
that you're going to get it seen whether it's a liberal or a conservative lens on it. And, I feel like in Europe, it's really just they're focused on getting the truth out there, unbiased, no opinions. And again, it's really more for the community, it's more for the collective instead of the individual.
Yeah. I mean, there is propaganda in German news as well, but it's not as much and it's not as blatant as it is in the States. I definitely agree. And also, bipartisanship is I don't know how that can work because if you have there's some things obviously that you're probably liberal about and there's some things that you're conservative about. And whoever you want to whichever team you want to sign up for, you have to buy all the other bullshit with it.
Yep.
And that goes for both sides of the spectrum, I think. you know
Yeah, yeah, definitely. 'Cause I mean, you have the independent parties that run,
mm,
and they always say your vote matters, but there's thousands of people that vote for the third parties that at the end of every election their vote really didn't matter because they're still hundreds of thousands of votes away from even being close to winning.
yeah, and that's so unfortunate. That's why I would like severely advocate for like an independent news source,
Mhm.
because basically, it would be legal to vote one of the other parties into the Senate. All they have to do is get more votes than the other two, which are billion-dollar enterprises that have their ties with the media, that can like spam you with television commercials and all that. And if all you see and all you hear are those two opinions, then like there's no way people are gonna like venture out and say, hey, I'm gonna go libertarian for a change because I really like that guy on Joe Rogan. It's like,
Right, right.
yeah, that's unfortunate. But hey, I think we did about an hour and a half.
Yeah,
Amazing talk, man.
yeah, yeah. It was great. I had a great time.
Yeah. Is there anything you want to get out? Anybody you want to like shout out to?
Yeah, I just, I want to say, thank you to my parents. They support me, my mom and dad. Both my sisters. I turn to one for a lot of advice because she's been through this before with basketball, and the other one takes care of my dog for me, which does mean a lot to me. That's like my son. So I want to thank them. All my friends. That watch the games. From over in America and support me and some of them since high school when, I wasn't getting, that varsity time and they still believed in me just because, I had the drive to keep going. And then my girlfriend, of course, she came out and visited for a couple months last year and is trying to visit again this summer. But, I miss them all and, I love the support, from all of my family. And it means a lot to, when they reach out and say stuff, after a game and, when they're able to watch games, it means a lot.
Yeah. And I wanted to say on the record, I definitely do not condone import players going places and getting
Oh.
like like sorry, Matt's girlfriend.
uh,
I didn't mean it.
I actually have a funny story about that. From last year, I spent one of my off weeks, went to another team's practice, and I was talking with their coach, and he was saying, yeah, we like to try to get our imports, introduce them to girls over here, so they can, get married, start families, and get dual citizenship, so they don't count as imports anymore. So yeah, I always thought that was funny, but yeah, yeah.
Yeah. All right, man. Thanks for stopping by. Um, hope you have a great night, and I'll get this out as soon as possible. Thanks for your time, man. Best of
Yeah,
luck,
thanks
and I hope
for
I'll see you on October 1st.
yeah, thanks for having me. You have a good night too.
All right, thanks. Matt Lauer, everybody.